Okay, excuse me. So, I changed the topic of this video. I was prepared to talk about, excuse me, something else, and I may still talk about it, or at least touch on it a little bit. But I just found out that David Carroll has passed away. Now, for those who don't know, there is a follower who asked who David Carroll is. He is well known, not just in the black sector of YouTube. There are thousands and thousands of white people who followed David Carroll. In fact, one of his videos went viral, got well over 1 million views. When was it? It was a few years ago, but he's been around ever since. He came onto the scene with a viral video, and he's been here ever since. And he has had a strong influence on me, as has several black men here on YouTube. Okay, I have nothing negative to say about David Carroll, and any comments, derogatory comments, I'm going to just remove them. Because I view this as a loss for not just black people, but everybody in this country. You got to understand, these black men who come along and try to improve the overall condition of their people, if black people were to improve their overall existence, that would improve the country itself. That would improve every neighborhood community in this country. Okay? So you have to, or at least I view these men as leaders. I view these black men and women, you know, the black women who are out here, who are speaking sense, who are speaking truth, as our leaders. They're just not propped up on a pedestal by mainstream media as a leader, but they're like, I will say, teachers, and I view teachers as leaders. David Carroll, 100% from this seat, was one of our teachers. Yes, he would get offensive. At times, I think that was out of not only frustration, but his attempt to shock people out of their coma. To say things that would make people so offended that they would be compelled to look into what he's talking about. I believe he used that. It was just a certain type of tactic that I believe he used. But David Carroll, to me, was what some would consider a messenger. A person who had a strong spirit and was well educated. He put a lot of time and effort into trying to educate black people. And he dedicated his life to it. All these videos he was making, it wasn't really out of hatred. If he really hated black women, trust me, he wouldn't talk about them. You don't waste so much of your life talking about a group of people who you don't like, who you don't date, and who you don't care to see improve. You just don't. Now, that concern can lead into genuine bitterness and disdain. So it's a very thin line, and you got to be very careful. You got to be very in control of your emotions. But I 100% believe David was a powerful teacher. Now, I'm going to come back to David Carroll. And one thing I want to point out is that I know, or at least I heard, that he died from COVID complications. Okay, complications with COVID. I'm quite sure if he caught COVID that, him smoking cigars didn't help any. But I always question the overall health of black males who die at a young age, because we tend to die at a very young age. And I don't know how to convince Tariq Nasheed to change his diet, but I would like him to change his diet. And also, I'm going to remove those videos I did about Umar Johnson. Yeah, he might be hustling. I'll talk about that in a different video. But I would much rather David Carroll, Tariq Nasheed, and all other black men out here putting out the truth. Even though I disagree with many of the things they say, I would like to see them grow to a ripe old age. That way we could see their full progress. They say with age comes wisdom. And I believe these men are putting out a lot of wisdom at a young age. I would love to see how their message sounds at 80, 85, 90 years old. But in order to do that, you have to change your diet. You have to completely overhaul your diet. And I know for a fact Tariq Nasheed has not done that. And I don't know how to convince him, but I'm going to do my best. Because I believe a lot of black men are very important to the people, because the people, for the most part, they're going to listen to these types of people on YouTube. They're not going to listen to the Jesse Jacksons, Al Sharptons, Benjamin Crumps, all the so-called leaders, these puppet leaders that they put before us. Most black people, they're not going to listen to it. And if they do, they're going to be misled. A big part of David Carroll's thing was to fight against the brainwashery that black people have succumbed to. Now I'm going to come back to this. Now, Christmas was just yesterday. And of course, I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas. And I recently had a discussion at my job with some coworkers who thought that I should be a Muslim. And I had to explain to them, like, I don't subscribe to any religion, Muslim, Christianity, Judaism, or any other religion. And as always, they were dumbfounded. They just could not understand, how I could have that belief. So, as always, they categorized me as an atheist. The idea is, okay, if you don't subscribe to any of these religions, then you must not believe in God at all. So I just wanted to explain briefly. And I believe David Carroll, this is a big part of David Carroll's mission, to eradicate this type of brainwashery. When you look at religions, different religions, you notice religion is tailor-made for the group that believes in it. For, let's say, Europeans or white people, they had Christianity, which was a perfectly healthy, is a perfectly healthy religion for white people. Now, I do not co-sign with the racism in the Bible. I'll get to that. I do not co-sign with the racism in their literature. But everything else, okay. You should see yourself in God. When you look at an image of God, of God's son, whatever, God's mother, if you're a white person, it should be a white God, a white Jesus, a white Mary. Why? Because you're supposed to see yourself in God. You're supposed to understand and feel that God lives within you. And when you read the stories of the Bible, you have the children of Israel. This image is supposed to portray the children of Israel. And this is supposed to be Moses. And you notice how the people who subscribe to this belief system, they believe that they are God's chosen people. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I think that's a good idea. That's a good way to think. They believe that God, their entire relationship with God is based on their historical experience with God. You know, traveling through the desert, going through the plagues in Egypt, and all of that history shapes the way they currently operate in the world. Everything that they've been through, even if it didn't actually happen, the fact that they believe it happened is pretty much the same as it actually having happened. Right? It shapes the way they currently operate in the world. And that's the way it should be. Their religion makes them feel special in the eyes of God. And that's how it should be. But you don't find that. You don't find any religion that projects black people as special in the eyes of God. And that's the primary reason I don't subscribe to them. They essentially have nothing to do with me or the group that I belong to. Okay? I want the same type of religion that they have. When you look at Islam, there are some passages in, what is it? I cannot remember. But there are some scriptures that talk about how blessed the Arabs are. And whenever they project Muhammad and Muhammad's followers, these are Arabic looking people. Okay? Their religion makes them feel special in the eyes of God. Again, those religions don't work like that for black people. Now, to hammer this point home, let me share something else with you. Okay, what is this? All right, sorry about that. Let me share something else with you. I might be here for a while, so bear with me here. Okay, here we go. Now I want y'all to watch something here. Well, not yet. We'll come back to that. Prophets of Christianity. I'm going to cover that, and I want to deal with the curse of Ham. Let's first deal with the curse of Ham from the Bible. Again, this is a big reason I do not subscribe to the Bible or any religion that, uses the Bible as its guide. Look at this. Early and modern Christian interpretations of the curse of Ham. As we all know, Ham is said to be the father of black people. For the Egyptians are prone to a degenerate life and quickly sink to every slavery of the vices. Keep in mind, the Bible associates Egyptians with black people. They associate Egyptians with black people. Look at the origin of the race, and you will discover that their father, Shem, who had laughed at his father's nakedness, deserved a judgment of this kind. That Canaan should be a servant to his brothers, in which case the condition of bondage would prove the wickedness of his conduct. not without merit. Therefore, does the discolored posterity imitate the ignobility of the race? Okay, that might sound a little bit confusing, but listen to this. This is a little more clear. When Noah awoke, he cursed him and said, "Cursed be Ham, and may he be a slave to his brothers." And he became a slave, he and his lineage, namely the Egyptians. Okay, again, they associate the Egyptians with black people, right? Ham, black, Egyptians, black. The Abyssinians and the Indians. Indeed, look at this. Ham lost all sense of shame, and he became black and was called shameless all the days of his life forever. Ham became black. Black is said to be a mark of our curse. The Bible speaks of black people being a cursed group of people. Okay. You have another interpretation, 9th century. When Noah cursed Canaan, instantly, by the force of the curse, his face and entire body became black. This is the black color which has persisted in his descendants. In other words, black people are black because they're cursed. People, this was taught in the United States. Right? There's more. Another interpretation. Cursed be Ham, and may he be a servant to his brothers. He himself and his descendants, who are the Egyptians, the Negroes, the Ethiopians, and the Barbari. Huh? These are our Arabic interpretations. Here's another one by an Arabic Christian scholar. The curse of Noah affected the posterity of Canaan, who were killed by Joshua's son. At the moment of the curse, Canaan's body became black, and the blackness spread out among them. Okay? You find this same type of writing of talk in the Bible, in the King James Version of the Bible. A Syrian Christian scholar of the 13th century wrote, "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and showed it to his brothers." That is, that Canaan was cursed, not Ham. And with the very curse, he became black, and the blackness was transmitted to his descendants. Huh? And it's non-stop. It's non-stop. There's even a verse where it talks about the descendants. I think it was like a Jewish writing or something like that, where they talk about how black people were cursed with thick lips, broad noses, and kinky hair. If any of you know, and I know some of you listening are going to know exactly what I'm talking about, please share the book in the comment section and or in the chat room. This religious text, I believe it was either in the Bible or some Islamic writing or some Jewish writing. Because your head twisted around to see my nakedness, cursed are you and your descendants. I will make your lips swell, your nose big, your hair will twist into kinks. Yeah. Okay. Where is this? This is from the Bible, King James Version, Genesis. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan. A servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." Now, the thing about this that you want to note about this is that this was taught in churches all throughout the South here in the United States. They taught slaves that it was actually God who gave them the stamp of approval to enslave them. The idea was to make the slaves comfortable and happy with being a slave. You don't want rebellious slaves. You don't want to have to beat your slaves all the time. The primary goal is to get them comfortable. And this is why I always remind people that most slave owners were very, very nice to their slaves. They treated them like, almost like a family member, almost. They almost went out of their way to be nice to their slaves. So much so that there are slave narratives that you can read right now from slaves who talk about how much they loved it when they were slaves. I mean, they're talking about that those were the best times of their life when they were slaves to massa, because massa take care of everything. Take care of the bills, take care of the food, take care of the everything, the clothes. I don't have to worry about nothing. Huh? They were teaching this all throughout the United States. So, in other words, religion had the very opposite effect on black people that it had on other groups of people. It made other groups of people feel special in the eyes of God, made black people feel like, oh, well, God cursed us. God meant for us to be slaves. So everything that happens to us in our life, we deserve it. When you look at all the prophets, see this? Prophets of Christianity. I hope y'all can see that. Okay, y'all can see that. When you go down the list at all these prophets from out the Bible, you notice none of them talked about black people. Not in a positive light anyways. None of them brought a message that made black people feel special in the eyes of God. And I'm sorry, I cannot subscribe to any religion like that. Instead, I look at people like David Carroll. And keep in mind, all these prophets in the Bible, all of these prophets have flaws. None of them are perfect. And that's why I plead with black people, do not expect perfection out of your teachers. We have natural born teachers that are born among us. Natural born, what should be considered messengers. Right? Tariq Nasheed, I don't care, General Seti, Jay Marvelous, any and everybody who does study and have a genuine concern for their people and act on that concern, these are messengers to the people. That's my Bible. My experience, my people's experience in this country, that's my Bible. And just like these other people feel like they're chosen, feel like they're special in the eyes of God, I feel the same way about myself and my group. 100%. And I explained to this person, look, we have our own problems. And your religion is not designed to solve those problems. In fact, it's really designed to keep those problems in place. And when you travel the world, everywhere you go, you're going to find black people at the bottom of the social, political, and economic ladder. You find this even in Africa itself. Every country you go to around this planet, the black people, many are the indigenous people of those areas. They are treated like dirt. Dirt. And I don't want to see no Bible, no scripture that is not structured to address that problem. If it does not address that problem, I don't want no parts of it. Now I want y'all to check this out.
Doll is the black doll. And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because he's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Listen. I don't care how good your scripture sound when you read it. I don't care how much chills you get down your spine when your pastor recite your little scriptures, whatever religion you belong to. If those scriptures are not geared to correct this problem, where our kids at very young ages have a stark inferiority complex, I don't want nothing to do with your religion. You can keep your book. You can keep your religion. My religion is my ancestors. And I operate in this world based on what my ancestors went through. If your Bible, if your Quran don't do that, your Hadith or whatever religious scripture you follow is not, I'm specifically in detail addressing this issue. I don't want no parts of it. This is a problem that other people don't have to deal with. And no matter who you deal with, anybody with an inferiority complex, they're going to be a danger to society. They're going to be very destructive. They're going to be self-destructive in many ways, whether it be substance abuse, in any and every way you can think of. They're not going to be productive. They're not going to set their goals high. They're not going to believe that they're intelligent enough to do certain things. They're going to believe that they are best suited to play with balls, to be a comedian, to entertain people. Talk to them about being a doctor or lawyer. Oh no, that's for those other smart people. We're not smarter. That's not what we do. If your religion is not designed to send our people through mental rehab, I don't want no parts of it. You know, I'm one of those people who are willing to acknowledge the mental dysfunction in my own group. And that's the only way for your group to evolve. It's the only way. And I believe David Carroll specialized in admitting that we have many, many psychological problems. And that it does us no good to turn a blind eye to them and simply call ourselves kings and queens. Okay? I take this very seriously. And I believe that aspect of David Carroll, that was excellent work. And if he is judged, I think he'll be judged based on where his spirit was. And I think his spirit was with the people. Even though he would use derogatory language referring to, when he talked about black men, he said, oh yeah, black men were effed up. Black women, oh yeah, black women are effed up. But when you listen to his content, he would always focus on exactly how they were screwed up. He would make these types of memes. Yes, a lot of divestors got offended, but he believed that his people were so brainwashed, that you almost had to use something just as powerful as the brainwashery to get them to snap out of it. What's the best way? To put the exact mental dysfunction right in your face. To be a little creative. To make it obvious. To speak your language. Articulate the problem of the people in a way where you will understand and grasp it best. And I believe that's what we all try to do. That's what we all try to do. Listen, I don't trust white people who hate white people. I don't trust white people who hate their own people. I don't trust Chinese people who hate Chinese people. The worst type of neighbor you can have is one that hates their own people. Because rest assured, they hate themselves as well. I've grown to realize that the biggest problem, or at least one of the biggest problems among all people, is a lack of love for self. Some of you followed me from my other channel, I Hate Dogs. That channel is primarily geared toward eradicating this mentality where people have a huge lack of love for themselves and a lack of value for themselves to the point where they don't care if they live or die. I've talked about how I believe slavery, to a great extent, had to do with a bunch of slave masters who had a low value for life and human life specifically. And I believe most of those slave owners transitioned into dog owners. They had to always own some living creature, even if they had to sacrifice their own safety and the safety of their family. Yeah, it's a sickness with a whole lot of depth. And as you know, people are only recently starting to speak out against this dog lover culture. We're just getting started. And in the same way, people used to stay silent about slavery. They used to stay silent about slavery because the people who were carrying out slavery were too powerful. Right? Even if you disagree with it, you're a white person, you disagree with slavery, well, you better not make too much noise about it. You'll be hung. Now, I don't know if Edmund Burke made this quote, but I co-sign with it. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Has many interpretations. For good people to stay silent. So on and so forth. This problem among black people, you understand, that video that I showed, that was a recent video. The first test that was done was conducted during segregation. And they said after the test, they said, well, the cause of this is segregation. This doll test was the primary reason that segregation was outlawed. It was primarily based on this test, this Kenneth Clark doll test. They say, hey, look, this is the effects of segregation. Let our black kids go to school with the white kids. And here, several decades later, they take the same test and get the same results. It is because nothing in this society is geared to build the self-esteem of black children, of black people. Right? And I got a problem with that. And I believe David Carroll specialized in bringing attention to how dysfunctional black people are. We are extremely, and really everybody in this country, no matter what race you are extremely, extremely dysfunctional. May it be in different ways. Yeah, you're crazy. We are all crazy because Satanists run this world. And they're going to program everybody to operate against their own best interest. Right? Their goal is really to cause the population to self-destruct. So again, nothing negative to say from me about David Carroll. I feel like he inspired me. Me and him had words before. He left a comment on my old channel, SBW. And a lot of what he had to say inspired a lot of my work. Right? So rest in peace to him. And let's hope that more black men start to take better care of themselves. Whether or not David Carroll passed away, that's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. You know, we really need to clean up our diet. It's real hard for me to watch. As people get older, they get fatter. When that's supposed to be the exact opposite. As you get older, you should become more and more healthy because you're maturing. With age comes wisdom. As you get wiser, your diet should get healthier. And that's not happening with us. And that's a big reason why many of us die at an early age. Black men die at an early age like no other demographic. And it's from health. It's not from crime, nothing like that. From health reasons. Simply because we're not taking care of ourselves. Okay? So hopefully we can get ourselves together and live a long, healthy, productive life. See them interviewers. Yeah. Right? To hate the subconscious. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this teaching of self-hatred is pretty incredible. It's satanic. It really is satanic. You know, we're under the power of Satanists, under the authority of Satanists. And I think we need to keep that in mind. That'll help us to see through the propaganda. And I am telling you, these people they view everybody as enemies. Everybody. But I'm not equipped. I'm not qualified to help white people in their problems. You know, that's for them to do. Even if I tried, I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't know white culture like that. I'm black. You know, I know black people. You know, you gotta, from experience, having been grown up in a black community, black family, that gives you understanding of your group like other people just can't have. But I think it's all our responsibility to call out our own dysfunctional behavior and to correct it, because it's not going to come from the top. We can't depend on them to lead us into the right path. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So that is all for now. I will see you all on the next live stream.